what he is saying to each and every one of us as we've gathered in this place to worship him and honor him this morning. So let's pray, church. God, I thank you that we can gather in this place. I thank you for that, Lord, that you give us a place to come together as family, to share with each other, to honor you, to worship you, to get to listen to a message, God, today. I pray that you anoint Bob's lips right now, Father God, as you are preparing him to speak to us today. Prepare our hearts to receive it, Father. God, I pray for every single person that's in here. God, I pray that I pray for our salvation, Lord. And I pray for the salvation of people in our own families and in our own circles, Lord God, that may not know you. I pray that, Lord. And God, I pray for the Spickler family, pray for the Roma family, Lord God, as they do unify today. God, I pray a peace. I pray a blessing. I pray your love just shine down upon them, God, and that they would have the most amazing day in you and with each other. God, I pray for safety over them. And I thank you for all of their devoted service to this church. And we give you glory in this place. God, we've come to worship you. Take us deeper than we've never been before. We love you. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Built on your faithfulness. My hope is held in your promises. I take each step with your confidence, 'cause I am yours. I am yours. You never fail. You buried it, what you've done, I won't forget. You never fail, you never will. I'll trust your name for greater things. You will come through. You always do. I'll trust your but you have never failed me yet.
You never will, Lord.
Oh, waiting for change to come, full knowing the battle's won. For you have never failed me yet. You never will, Lord. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Oh, your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Oh, keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. We sing to you, Lord. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. He's never failed his church, and he never will. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. Made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. 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 Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never I never will forget.
Colossians 2:14 says, by the canceling the record of debt that stood against us, with all legal demands, this he set aside, nailing it to the cross. God, I thank you for your faithfulness. I thank you for your love. I thank you for the mountains that you are moving, and I thank you that you continue to do it again and again and again. You are faithful, Lord, and we are here to worship you and to praise you. Join us and sing this song, church, when you feel comfortable too.
You tell mountains that they must fall, and they fall.
of our heart, God. I thank you for your faithfulness, God, and I thank you for the joy that you are restoring in this place right now. The hope and the trust, Lord God. I just thank you for your presence here this morning. I thank you that we can come before you. We can worship you and cherish you in this place, Lord. And God, the plea of my heart is that you would just take us deeper. Take us deeper in faith. Take us deeper in relationship with you, God. And let us go out and be disciples to all nations, God. You, our King, are faithful. Your freedom. Oh, God, your freedom is so awesome, and we praise you for that. I believe it. I receive it. My God is over all. Oh, I believe it. I receive it. My God is over all. Lord, I believe it. I receive it. My God is over all. God, we believe in you. And I thank you for the eyes that you are opening right now. That we can see things, God, only the way that you see them. And God, that we would not only just see things, that we would believe you, Lord, and we would receive all that you have for each and every one of us. God, I pray that you would tear down walls of bitterness in this place and restore our hearts to a place of hope and love. You are the God over all, and we stand in complete awe of who you are, what you've done, what you're doing, and what you will do, Lord. We love you in this place. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Church, you may be seated in his presence as we prepare for our offering this morning.
Good morning, New Life.
Good morning.
We could have the gatekeepers come forward. We'll continue with our tithe and offering. Let us pray. Lord, we come before you with praise and thanksgiving. We thank you for these gifts, and we ask you to bless the giver as they give. We ask for your guidance and wisdom over how to best use these gifts. We pray that you would use these offerings to bring glory to your name here in the church, in our area, and around the world. In Jesus' name, amen.
And ooh, there's something about the way your sun shines on my face. It's a love so true, I can never get enough of you.
That anybody who's sick or hurt could be healed. We pray for Ben that you would give him peace and comfort and healing. We pray for Ashley that you could be with her as she gets ready to travel. We pray that you could have her touch lots of people through her. We pray for Justin and Mia that they could have a good new life together, that they could have just a lot of fun. In Jesus' name, amen.
Let's go! Let the music play. It's time to celebrate. 'Cause it's a brand new day.
Good morning. TT's not here this morning. In fact, none of the Spicklers are, none of the Turners are here either this morning, and so anyway, so we're here, but praise God, and thank you for being here as well. Amen. Everybody happy out there? Smiles. It's a good day to be here, amen? But we do, seriously, our prayers are with all the Spicklers, with all the Turners, and that everything, that mobilizing all the people to get them down to Dallas, and that just what a blessing they are for us, and that because of their obedience to God, that we have a place like this that we can come and worship on a weekly basis during the week, and we just thank you for everything that God does through them and that he does through each and every one of us. Okay, so anyway, so I'm sharing this morning. I always look forward to opportunities whenever PT finds an excuse to put me up here. Last time I think it was golfing or something, and he doesn't do that often, so I said, you can do that. Okay, well this time it's a kid getting married, but he's only got 3 more kids, so I don't know. So I got trying to find other excuses and ways to get up here to preach, but I guess, hey, I take what I can get, right? So anyway, this morning, I want to share with you what I'd like to say are 3 powerful words. 3 powerful words that can totally revolutionize your life, the lives of those around you, your family situation, your life situation. That 3 powerful words that if you learn how to use them on a regular basis and to use them well, that can totally revolutionize your life. You want to know what those words are? You got to wait for a second. Okay? But to get to it, I want to just share, we're going to go through, there's a few scriptures here. I want to talk about the first 2 kings, the first 2 kings of Israel. If anybody knows where the names are, the very first king that God appointed. Now, God did not want to put a king over Israel. Okay, God did not want to put any king of Israel. He wanted to be the king. But the Israelites, if you remember, they were stubborn. They were stubborn. Well, everybody else has got a king, that we want a king too. And God's saying, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea, but you guys are so stubborn. Fine, here's a king. And so who was the name of the first king that they gave him? Saul, right? Okay, and then after Saul, well, that didn't work out too good. And so who was the second king they put over? Okay, and then David ended up being the best king ever. And the fact that God just could not, if you read throughout Scripture, that there was no man like David. And what I want to share is why the difference between these 2 kings. And so I'm not going to read the entire Scripture here, but if we go to 1 Samuel 13, the first situation with Saul is basically they were about to go out to battle. Everybody was a little upset, a little bit worried. And Samuel had said to Saul, okay, wait for me, okay? Wait for me. I'm going to be gone. I'll be back in 7 days, but wait for me, okay? And they said to go down there. So we'll just pick it up here in verse 8. Here, and then it says, and then he, Saul, waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul said, bring a burnt offering and peace offerings here to me. And he offered the burnt offering. Now it happened, as soon as he had finished presenting. Now, isn't that the way it always works? You know, you're holding off, you can't do it, then you go off and do something, and then as soon as you do it, then well, that's what happened to Saul. He'd been told to wait 7 days. He couldn't wait any longer. He just couldn't, so he just went ahead. Now, it happened as soon as he had finished presenting the burnt offering, which he wasn't supposed to do. He wasn't supposed to do that Samuel came and Saul went out to meet him that he might greet him. And Samuel said, what have you done? And Saul said, when I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come in with the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered together at Michmash, then I said, the Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering, something he had been told not to do. And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, for now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. Another Saul story in 1 Samuel 15. Now in this situation, okay, there was the Amalekites, okay? Now, I won't go into all the stories, all the details and stuff, but basically Saul had been told that, okay, the Amalekites, they are beyond redemption. They are beyond, okay, they've been a thorn in your side and everything else. And basically, harsh as it may sound, the commandment of God was destroy them. Every single one of them. Destroy every single animal. Every single thing that there is absolutely nothing whatsoever that is to stand. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole details and all or where we're going, because that sounds a little bit harsh, but there's reasoning behind it we don't have time to share right now. But basically, Saul was told to go in and destroy everything. That there is not supposed to be one bit of stuff left over, and that was the commandment of God. And we pick up in verse 13 here, 1 Samuel 15, that it says, Then Samuel went to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of the Lord, I have performed the commandment of the Lord. But Samuel said, remember, he was told to get rid of everything. Well, what then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and the oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. What was the commandment? Destroy them all. But he said, but we've kept the rest we've utterly destroyed. And Samuel said to Saul, Be quiet, shut up, and I will tell you what the Lord said to me last night. And he said to him, Speak on. So Samuel said, When you were little in your own eyes, were you not head of the tribes of Israel? And did not the Lord anoint you king over Israel? Now the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said to Samuel, But I have obeyed the voice of the Lord and gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me and brought back Agag, king of Amalek. I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took of the plunder sheep and oxen, the best of the things which should have been utterly destroyed to sacrifice to the Lord your God in Israel. Even there he's admitting the things that should have been utterly destroyed. So Samuel said, Has the Lord a great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also has rejected you from being king. Then finally, Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed against the commandment of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me, that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. And this was the moment where the word came down, Saul, you're no longer king, okay? And that was from that moment on was when Samuel was going to be tasked with finding the next king. And who was the next king? David. And everybody knows the story, David and Goliath and all that and everything, one of those we learned. And David was the greatest king ever, a man after God's own heart. But how many know that David wasn't a perfect man? In fact, we're not going to read the entire thing, but I can just give you the quick little version of it. One day when David was supposed to be out to war, what did he do? Instead of going out to war, where was he? He was up on his palace. And he was out looking around at all the area where once again, he should have been gone. And what did he see when he was looking out from the rooftop? Anybody remember? Bathsheba. Bathsheba was a pretty hot-looking woman. And she just happened to be out there on the roof one day, bathing. And probably nobody else could see her, but because David was high up and stuff, he could go down and say, hey, that's pretty hot. And we all know the story. What happens? He goes, he brings her to him, he sleeps with her, and then of course what happens, we know from biology that, I say these things with pregnancy, we know why it happens, okay? But what happened? Next thing you know, she got pregnant, right? So now King David, okay, now he's an adulterer, now you've got a child coming like this, and of course to try, if you remember the story, to try to cover up the thing, he had the husband killed. He had the husband killed. Made it look like an accident. But not only now is David an adulterer, but now he's also a murderer. And so now he brings Bathsheba in to live with him as his wife and the child and all this stuff and all that. And you're going like, well, that sounds pretty serious, doesn't it? I mean, okay, Saul, he may have, done a few things here, but boy, that's pretty serious. This is an adulterer and a murderer on the throne. And we read here in 2 Samuel 12, this is the way that it was handled with David. So the same prophet, different king, 2 Samuel 12:1, then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said to him, there were two men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished. And it grew up together with him and with his children. It ate of his own food and drank from his own cup and lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to him. And a traveler came to the rich man, who refused to take from his own flock and from his own herd to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. So David's anger was greatly aroused against the man, and he said to Nathan, as the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die, and he shall restore fourfold for the lamb, because he did this thing and because he had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your keeping, and gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if that had been too little, I also would have given you much more. Why have you despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. You have taken his wife to be your wife, and you have killed him with the sword of the people of Ammon. Now, therefore, the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says the Lord, behold, I will raise up adversity against you from your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of the sun. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel, before the sun. And so David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Two kings, both of them doing wrong in the sight of the Lord. Now, once again, if you look at these two kings, the things that Saul did, they didn't really seem like that big of a deal. Okay, he did a sacrifice that he shouldn't have done, right? He kind of got ahead. Oh, he was supposed to get rid of everything, but he saved the best. He had good intentions, right? And here's David, an adulterer, a murderer, sitting on the throne. And yet David was called a man after God's own heart, and Saul was utterly rejected as king over Israel. How many of you know you don't have to be perfect to be loved of God? If that were the case, none of us would be here. Amen? So what was the one difference between Saul and David? There were other differences as well, but one of the main reasons that David was accepted. Now, does that mean that he was free from the consequences of the things that he did? No. He still suffered greatly. If you read later on, there were a lot of things that went on in his life, but yet he was still considered a man after God's own heart, and Saul was utterly rejected. And what was the big difference between David, if you read his life, and Saul? The three powerful words that David was pretty much able to say right after. I'm paraphrasing the way that it was, but the three powerful words that this was in the heart of David that Saul could not do, and those three words were, I was wrong. Everybody repeat with me. I was wrong. One more time. I was wrong. For some of you, that might be something hard to say. But if you look at the big difference between Saul and David, neither of them perfect men, but when David was confronted with something that he did wrong, time and time again, you will see that he didn't hem-haw. He didn't try to beat around the bush. He didn't try to put the blame on someone else. you will see time and time again that what was he able to do? I was wrong. Words, I don't say magic words, but the pretty powerful words that can literally change our lives. David didn't make excuses. He didn't defend himself. He didn't try to blame someone else. He admitted to God and others that he was wrong. Now, this is not legal advice, okay? Okay, this is not legal advice. So if you ever find yourself, heaven forbid, in a court case or being arrested or something, okay, this is not legal advice. One of the things I watch with my wife from time to time is, you ever see on like the Discovery Channel or something where they have like airport alert or alert airport or something? I usually see these translated into Spanish or whatever, but where you have the customs agents and they're going through, and the people that are coming from different countries, they come across and then they find out that this guy's trying to smuggle like 10 pounds of cocaine in his suitcase. Okay? And they're going through, and I watch sometimes the show and you're going, and they are totally 100% going, I don't know how that got there. Whoa, I don't, whatever. And they're going like this, and I'm going like, man, if that were me, I'd be going, I did it. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm going like, anybody that knows me, I can't hide my feelings. Okay? My wife knows whether I like something or not because she just looks in my face and, no, he didn't like that at all. So once again, this is not legal advice. I was wrong, okay? So if you are, once again, if you're ever arrested, if you're ever got a court case or something, get a good lawyer. Okay? But in our day-to-day activities, what do we have here in the United States? We have, one of the things, the great things that makes the United States legal system supposedly so awesome is we have the right to remain, right? The problem is very few of us actually take advantage of it. Amen? Because from a very human nature, what do we want to be? Do any of us, for some of you, like I said, it was hard to say I was wrong, right? Because nobody likes to be wrong. We like to be right. That is part of our human nature. I don't want to be wrong. I want to be right. The problem is that desire to be right can be sometimes so compelling, to be so strong, that we will go to any measure whatsoever to not have to say or admit, I was wrong. Right? And the problem is when we're trying to be right, and a couple of years ago I had a message kind of on this, is that most of us can't even agree what right is a lot of times. And so we're fighting for something that we think is right. Now, obviously, there are certain things that are right and there are certain things that are wrong, but any of you that are married, you know that when you first got married, there were some things that you as a guy thought were perfectly right that she didn't. Right? Correct? But what we do is we fight for, I'm right. I'm right. And we will fight tooth and nail to prove I'm right. In Judges 17:6, it says, now this was before the king of Israel was put over, but God was saying, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Men, agree? We see that today. I mean, as Christians here, we have a general idea of what we think is right and wrong, but even among ourselves, we have issues sometimes. Well, that's right, that's wrong, this is right, right? Am I correct? But we will fight tooth and nail. Wars have been fought. Churches have been divided. Families have been split because people can't agree on what they think is right. So much pain and damage can occur in our society because someone's desire to be right is more important than finding a way to just get along. How much pain and suffering could potentially be eliminated from our lives if more of us could just choose to, I know this is a hard phrase to say, agree to disagree, or just be able to say, I was wrong. Amen? But yet, what do we see? I've got a list of some places here where the first thing, and these are no specific order, but the first thing I have here is I got politicians down. Okay? Politician. Gotta be right. And it just amazes me. Now, I will always say this, and I've said it, I've had a preaching on this one time too, is you will never ever hear me say who to vote for. Okay? And I think you are in very dangerous ground when you start doing that. Okay? Because I could come up here and say that you need to vote for this person because God's saying so. And yet I can go to a church just across the other street and they love God just as much as you do. And yet they're saying God says to vote for the other guy. Very dangerous. I'm just kind of going off a little rabbit trail here, but you know, okay, whenever you say, one of the 10 Commandments is, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord God in vain. Yeah? A lot of people like to think that, I shouldn't say God damn or Jesus Christ. And not saying that you should be going around and loosely, but you know when you take the name of God in vain? Is when you tell somebody that God told you to do something and he didn't tell you to do it. When you tell, God says you should be doing this, if you do that, God's going to be mad at you. No, he's not. He's already been forgiven for that. Oh, God's going to bring judgment on these people. And you go out and you do that, you've just brought shame on the name of God. You've just used his name, that somehow you have special insight. And heaven forbid when the politicians start saying, God would vote for me. Or God would vote for this person. I'm not saying he doesn't have his favorites or what, but you can even see from here, from the 2 kings, God put both of those guys on the throne. It was his will for them to be there, and both of them were still screw-ups. Okay? David was a man after God's own heart. Saul was utterly rejected, but in the position, God put him there. So anyway, just going off in a bit, but just careful, okay? Be careful. If you ever want to know my political things, take me off to the side. I'll gladly share with you, and I will tell you why I believe this, but you will never, ever, ever hear me say, God says you should vote for this person. I'd say, I feel that God, but just wait. But for me, I've got Facebook. You talk about Facebook. I've got liberal friends. I've got conservative friends. I've got friends that are nothing or whatever on there. And I will never block you or get rid of you because you have a political feeling that's different than mine. We shut ourselves off now. Now, if you keep out posting 20 messages a day about why you like the president or why you hate the president, okay, I might unfollow you. But I'm not going to let my political feelings get in the way of a potential friendship of somebody that I can potentially reach for Christ. Okay, maybe I'm not going to convince you about your political beliefs, but I can at least be friendly to you. I can at least show you the love of God, right? But anyway, politicians, okay, they always got to be right. And it just amazes me is you can have video of them from 10 years ago saying one thing and now they're saying just the exact opposite thing. And it's like nobody realizes that. But they got to be right. They got to be right. And you will fight tooth and nail to show you're right. Families, okay, I praise God that mom and dad are here. I praise God that they're here, but that I got a pretty drama-free family. Now, my mom and dad might go, well, they must not have known a lot of the stuff that was going on, but I had a pretty drama-free family. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I started seeing how much strife there is in some families. Brothers not talking to sisters, sisters not talking to sisters, parents not talking. And in the end, a lot of that comes to, what does it come to? I was right. Now, I'm not trying to oversimplify things here because there are pains, there are things that have happened, but so much of what it is I got to be right. Well, they wronged me. Okay? So families, churches. Okay, now some of you come from church backgrounds, others don't. But if you ever, now you can't even look in a phone book anymore, but if you were to do a Google search on churches in the area, how many different churches would you see? You'd see Presbyterian, you'd see Lutheran, you'd see Catholic, you'd see Baptist, you'd see Reformed Baptist, you'd see Evangelical Lutherans, you'd see, and there are all these different groups, and you know the way that most of those groups started? Is because you had one group, you had one denomination, whatever it was, and eventually something came up, some situation came up, and they couldn't agree upon it. And so, because they both needed to be right, rather than trying to resolve their differences, what do? They split up. Now, I'm not saying that there is not a time for that to happen. God can use that, and he will use that, because I'll be honest today, thank God you found this church, okay? But the truth of the matter is, you cannot go to the average church here in the United States and hear what you need to do to be saved. A lot of people don't know that, but you can't just go to any church. Oh, well, there's a church over there, I'm going to go to it. The sad fact of the matter is, and now this is not there is no perfect church, and the moment you walk in, it's no longer perfect. But the sad fact of the matter is that most of the church, I don't say most of them, but 50%, 70%, whatever it is, but there's a good chance that if you just walk into any church that says church on the outside, Christian or anything else, you are not going to hear what you need to do to be saved. Okay, I mean, I might be able to disagree on some things, or okay, you do this, you don't do that, but if you are not hearing that Jesus Christ is the way to heaven, that you are a sinner needing to be saved, run, okay? But that's how these church breakups happen. I got to be right. We baptize in the name of Jesus because of such and such a verse. We baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit because such and such a verse. And for something as simple as that, you've had entire church breakups because they couldn't agree on one verse in the Bible. We both have to be right. Amen? And then the last thing I have here is, couples. Couples. Okay, I'm always careful with this. I praise God for my wife. I praise God. I mean, we've been married 15 years now and stuff, and it's been a really good experience. But I want to be real careful because one of the things that I've seen that's happens. One of the things that amazed me when I first got on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, look me up. I'm as Robert Freedlund there. I like people to call me Bob, but I put it as Robert, and so if you see it there, I'm Robert Freedlund. Look me up. I'll friend you. I don't have a problem with that. That's great. But one of the first things after so many years of not seeing people, I lived down in Texas for a number of years, and I got on Facebook, and for some of you, the first time you ever get on, you're all of a sudden finding people. Oh, this is so cool. I mean, this person I haven't seen, you're finding all these people out there, and I got connected with a whole bunch of people that I used to hang around with when I lived down in Texas. And it didn't take too long to find that, you know that one couple that you used to go to Bible study at their church? At their house on Tuesday nights or something? Guess what? They're no longer together. Oh, how many of you, maybe you've seen this, you've seen on Facebook or something, you've literally seen the disintegration of relationships before your eyes, that the people that were smiling in there and going, hi, all stuff like this, now they're not even friends, and now every single picture of the other person's been totally deleted. That marriage that you thought could not be destroyed, that they were the strongest Christian couple that was out there, and now all of a sudden, they're off with somebody else. And so I am real careful when I say this. I praise God for my wife. I think she's doing breakfast right now. Maybe she did that on purpose. I don't know. But I want to be real careful because the moment that I think that could never happen to me, I'm setting myself up for trouble. But couples, why? Sometimes I want to ask these people, and now my dad, he's 84 today. He just turned 84 today. My mom and dad have been married, how many years? 55, 56? 56 years. And my dad has three brothers, and we figured it out. If you take him and his three brothers, that the four of them and their wives have been married roughly around 220 years if you put all four of them. Every single one of them has been married over 50 years. And I'll say it out loud because maybe if I say this out loud it makes me good. But one of these days I'm going to pull all of you aside and I want to find out what have you all done to stay together? What is the advice you would give that you were able to stay together for 50 years? Okay, that's a side note or something like that. Because one day I want to be able to give a message or something, secrets to staying together. I didn't necessarily say secrets to a happy marriage, but at least secrets to staying together anyway. Like to assume it's been happy. But really, okay, but what was it when these things happened? And please, please, please do not ever think that if you've been through divorce, and the chances are that more of you have than not, that I'm ever, because like I said, but be able to ask, what was that moment when you realized that something was good? It isn't like all of a sudden one day you just decide that, boom, I'm getting divorced. It's something that happens over and over time, okay? Is what my belief. Once again, this is somebody that's not in the situation. Not saying that anyway, I'll be keeping it quiet among my dudes. But communication, how many marriages or how many other relationships have been destroyed because I've got to be right. And I am going to fight for my right to be right. And so you can't end an argument because you're going back and forth, right? And I said, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but just, we want to be right. Now, if you're in a situation where you're the person that's always, I was wrong, and there are those situations too, I know that if you are in a relationship where you are the one that is always wrong, that you can never do anything right, that's abuse. You need to seek some potential counseling and maybe even, I'm not saying divorce, but maybe you just need to get out of that situation. Sometimes that I've seen that works really well, once again, from somebody that's not a marriage counselor, is okay, you don't need, but just get away for a bit. Okay? But that can be a hard thing to do, and once again, this is not, but communication, we always got to be right. We always got to be right. Communication doesn't always mean I need to be right. Arguments and strife continue because no one can admit that they were wrong. 3 powerful words, I was wrong. Are you going to be the person to break that chain? Now, does necessarily have to admit that I was wrong? Maybe you are right. Maybe you were right. Okay, but you can be told, you can be the one that, Proverbs 15:1, excuse me if I'm rambling. This is the first time a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Is your need to be right strong in your ability to just say, drop it? Maybe you don't have to admit I was wrong, but can you just say, now, sometimes you got that person, the other person or other situation where they're going to keep on saying, but just get away. One of the things I learned early on with my wife, now, thank goodness I go so many places here, and I don't, because how many men, well, yeah, in my house, I'm never right. You know, I mean, like that, okay. But one of the things I learned early on with my wife was, if I make her mad, thank goodness I don't do it as much as I used to when we first got married, but once again, or whatever, but I had to learn that she was just going to walk away, and I just needed to leave her. Let her go. We can talk about it in a day or two, but rather than feeling that you have to keep on following and get this thing settled, no, just let it go. No relationship is worth being right over 100% of the time. And sometimes you just need to say, I was wrong, whether you were wrong or not. Okay, because it says, maybe you are right, but it isn't your job to defend yourself. In Psalm 62, 5-7, this is David speaking, my soul waits silently for God alone, for my expectation is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. And God is my salvation and my glory, the rock of my strength, and my refuge is in God. Okay, if you've got legal problems here in the United States, get a good lawyer. But if you got problems here, in your just day-to-day walk, and maybe you are, God is your defender. Amen. So sometimes you just say, okay, I was wrong. And maybe not you weren't wrong about what you're fighting over, but I was wrong by continuing to sit and debate with you or fighting with you. So just maybe look at it that way. Don't say I was wrong because maybe you're right, but I was wrong because I was wrong to keep on fighting you. God will defend. Leave it in God's hands. He will defend. Amen? Amen. I was wrong. Well, what if I am right? If you love God and are doing your best to please Him, He will move heaven and earth to show His glory through you. Amen. He will move heaven and earth to show His glory through you. He will move heaven and earth to show His glory through you. If you can be that one person to say, I'm not going to fight this battle. The battle belongs to the Lord. My relationship with you, my relationship with my significant other, my relationship with my kids, my relationship with that person, that there is no relationship that you can have that is worth losing because you have to be right. And that's hard, but it's true. I just wish everybody, but I do not want to be the one that is responsible for breaking a relationship. I don't have to agree with you all the time. I don't have to, but I'm not going to be the one that. Now, there's not reason. I wanted to be real careful when I was giving this message because anybody can take something said or whatever. Well, what about this? Well, I'm not talking about that, okay? But as much as it's humanly possible, I don't want to be. Now, it's possible that things happen and says, no, I cannot be in this part of this relationship. This is not, that there's a line that's been crossed and stuff, but that's, or whatever. That can happen. But as a general rule, I don't, if it's something stupid, I don't want to lose my relationship with you or someone because I have to be right. Whether I was wrong or not, it's not worth it. And yet that's what we see happening in our country, our homes, our houses around this. I have to be right. Can you be the person that just said, I was wrong? And once again, not that I was wrong because you did something wrong. I was wrong to take this battle on myself and not put it in the hands of the Lord. If you are wrong, if we confess our sins, 1 John 1:9, how is God in this? If we confess our sins, we are wrong. He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Now, sometimes the reason that people don't want to admit that they're wrong is because they're afraid of how the person's going to respond. How many of you as parents, your kids are scared to come up to you and tell you they did something because of the way that you're going to react? And I'm guilty of this at times. My son Alex, God bless him, love them all. When I talk about kids, I always like to say that my first two kids, they're all joy, but the first two were so good. I mean, you tell them no, and they just say, okay. Then we decided to have a third one. And no is not an answer or whatever. Now, some of you are going, well, that was my first, second, and third kid. But with Alex, our youngest one, at school, they give out, he's in second grade, just finished second grade, and they give you green days if you have no problems. Then if you get a warning or something, get a blue day. And then it escalates to yellow and eventually to red. I don't know how they do that in middle school there, but or whatever. But in second grade, Sarah's a teacher over there. And our expectation has always been with our kids, you're going to get a green day every day. That's their expectation. And our expectation is we expect to see a green day every day. Now, Alex is not a bad kid, anybody that knows him, but he's already gotten more blue days in one school year than my other two kids did in all their grade school years combined. But Alex would know that, in fact, if he came with a blue day, he was not getting video games this weekend. They don't play during the week, and they only get them during the weekend, and his video game privileges were going to be taken away. In our parent-teacher conference, the teacher went over and said, every time I told him he was going to get a blue day, he would just go crazy. Because he knew we were going to take away his video game. No, don't give me a blue day. Don't give me a blue day. It's not like this or whatever and all that. But eventually we got to the end, and I said, Alex, okay, if you get a blue day, you just talked when you weren't supposed to. Or maybe you hit a girl one time. She probably had it coming, but it was just, I don't know. But it was just a small point. Anyway. But he was so afraid because he knew he was going to lose his video game privileges. And he was scared to have to come and tell us that he was going to get a blue day because he knew what was going to happen. And basically to take him off to the side and say, Alex, just let us know. And from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, the other day, he just came in, Dad, I had a blue day. Just came in, just let me know. And my reaction wasn't, because we'd already gone through this, was, how can you dare get a blue day? It's like, okay. You're going to lose video game privileges for one day. Was he totally free from the consequences? No. But he already realized that the moment that he came, there's probably going to be a punishment, but Dad is not going to yell at me. Mom is not going to yell at me. Let's do that. And sometimes we have that problem. First of all, we think that we do not want to admit that I'm wrong. Now, maybe you're in a life situation where that's exactly what's going to happen. If you are, pray for the person or whatever. I don't know your situation, but you say, I was wrong, and all of a sudden you get it from here. But God is not that way. God is not that way. David was not free from the consequences, but was he forgiven? Yeah. Right from that moment. David, a man after God's own heart. David, the greatest king of Israel. An adulterer, a murderer. He didn't say, well, it was her fault because she shouldn't have been out there bathing. I've been tired, I really need a release. The big difference, I was wrong. It's gone. I was wrong. And also when you are free to say that I was wrong. Some of you, and this is I'll end this here. Praise team, come up. I think we want to do that last song again, whatever that one was, the softer one. Well, we're going to redo the. But to know that it's okay to say I was wrong. Some of you want to do something different. You're tired of the way things are. You want something different. I know it might be a job situation. It might be a financial. It might be or whatever. But you know what? It's okay to be wrong. And some of you, this is kind of changing something a little bit, but it's okay to say I was wrong. If you are living in fear because of a decision that you need to make, God is more than big enough to pick you up from wherever it was that you were, put you exactly back where you're supposed to be. Maybe you did spend some money that you shouldn't have. I was wrong. Maybe you said a word that you shouldn't have. I was wrong. But sometimes the only way to go up to the next level is to go ahead and take that chance. Maybe you're sick and tired of the job that you're working at right now, and you want to do something different, but you don't see how you can. Maybe you're wanting to try something that you've never tried before, but you're too scared because I don't want to be wrong. Maybe you want to go to college to study this, but you think you should study that. You know what? Maybe you just made the absolute worst decision of your life, but you know what? It's okay. I was wrong. God can pick you up, take you, put you exactly where you need to be. Your life isn't over. I was wrong. keep good relationships, but also I was wrong to go out and do some of those things that maybe you haven't been able to do or want to do because you're so scared that you're not right. God is good. Lord, thank you, Lord, for your presence here in this place, for being with each and every one of us. Thank you, Lord, that it's okay to be wrong. That you can work with that a whole lot better than us making excuses, trying to put the blame on others. Does that mean we're free from the consequences? No, we understand that. But we know that the moment that we're able to come before you or others and say, I was wrong, you will move heaven and earth to do what needs to be done in any given situation, because you're our Father, we're your children, and you will never, ever, ever look down on us for coming to you or going to another and being able to say, I was wrong. 3 powerful words. Let us use them more in our lives, Lord. Let us be the instruments of peace in your hand wherever we go, and the bearers of your glory and the bearers of your word to people that need it so bad. We thank you for that and give you honor and glory in the name of Jesus. Amen. I'm going to sing the last song that we did, worship.